Okay, everybody, what's going on? It's your boy, Coach Vic. I'm excited to be here. As you can see, I got this fashionable beard stubble. I haven't shaved my head today because I've been in the trenches doing math. And this math wasn't necessarily, it might not even be that important. But the reason why I'm willing to go into this and dig deeper is for something very important. Today, I'm going to talk about your offer letters and your offer prices in general. And I'm gonna get into why this is very important stuff that it's okay to experiment with and it's okay to kind of dig deeper because if you nail this part of the game, everything else becomes much, much simpler. Everything. So this is why I feel it is one of the most important things to get right as a land investor. And luckily for me, it's been easy for me to do to get deals. Like I haven't had any issues. So if you're ready for this, let me know in the comments below. If you can see me, you can hear me, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, because if this doesn't sink in, I don't know how successful you're going to be in this business. Even if you're already land investing, I know there's meat on the bone when it comes to the offers that you're putting out there. And I know this because I've kind of done all types of different techniques. And honestly, they've all worked. But the reason why I'm going into this is for two reasons. One, I read a Facebook post in a different Facebook group about land investing. And this one individual happened to, I don't want to say complain, but was talking about how they sent out so many offers out in the last 6 to 9 months. I believe it's around 9,000 offers, something crazy. I could be wrong about the amount, but it was something insane. Now, if I sent out 9,000 offers, I'll have so many people trying to sell me their property, I wouldn't know what to do. And having all that deal flow come in without systems or just the finances to back it up, it can be kind of tough. This These days, I'll probably figure out a way to make it work because nowadays I have a lot less problem with selling, but it's still like, damn, 9,000. How are you not getting anything? So I replied to this person like, hey, so what's going on with your offers? Like, how much are you offering? What are you saying? What methods are you using to communicate with these people, and so on and so forth? And the conversation didn't get anywhere. This person didn't really respond. So I don't know if they saw my messages or not. But I do know being around other Facebook groups, being around other land investors, this is a common problem. People don't know how to generate those deals. They don't know how to get more deal flow coming in. For me, it's just a matter of getting more mailers out, getting more texts out, getting more voice drops out. But for others, there's some fundamental things that they're not understanding that today, that's what I'm going to talk about. So I remember doing my first deal, and in the beginning, how I used to do things was pretty simple. I used to first off just look at the county's website. I will create a list by hand. And if you've seen my intro to this, my what's working in land now, I was using a similar method, going to county, copying and pasting, creating a list, sending people letters. And in that, there is a assessed price. The county always has an assessed price when you're looking at the assessor's webpage. That assessed price at the time, I was like, oh, wow, this property is worth this amount. If I buy a property for less, I can sell it for that assessed price. Money's gonna be coming in. Well, so I basically took that assessed price. Let's just say it was for $2,000. That says this property's worth $2,000 according to the assessor. I would take that price and I would divide it by 4. So that means I'm offering that person, hey, John Smith, I want to buy your property. I'm going to pay you $500 right now up front in cash, ready to go. I'll have this done for you in a couple of days. And to me, I'm like, wow, okay, get it for 500, sell it for 2,000. Let the good times roll. Little did I know, the assessed price is very rarely based on reality. Sometimes it's just based on people, or excuse me, the assessor looking to get a certain amount of tax revenue from people in a certain area. Sometimes it's based on comps that may or may not been properly done. And in my opinion, I can't. There's no way to prove this, but sometimes it feels like they just made shit up out of thin air. Like, hey, just give me this. Like, so using that assessed price wasn't necessarily the best technique. However, you send out enough offers, you're going to get people saying, yeah, I'll sell you. And in my experience, when you're in the lower areas, those lower income areas, those lower value areas, not necessarily lower income area, but lower value. So, less people are interested in this area. That assessed price technique works pretty well, especially for low dollar lots. Now, would it have worked the same if, let's say, instead of 2,000, the property was assessed for 20,000? and I'm just paying $5,000 for that lot? I don't know. It's hard to say. I personally had less luck with that method. But again, if you mail to enough people and you contact enough people using that divide by four of the assessed value, somebody's going to agree to it. You know, you may have to haggle and negotiate a bit when you're on the phone with this person, but somebody will agree. You'll be able to pay for it, and then you're off to the races. Now, I did that method for a long time. And well, why did I do that? Well, basically, I was told that you should want to divide the asking price that you want by three. At the time, I didn't know how to, like, well, what should I sell? What do I sell this for? I don't know this area. I don't know this part. So I just took that assessed price, again, not knowing any better. The thing is, when I would go to sell, not many people want to pay that amount. I'm not saying nobody would, but just not as much as I would like. My phone wasn't ringing off the hook. I wasn't getting like just kind of bombarded with people. It's like, hey, I want to buy this. I want to buy this. Yeah, that $2,000 is right. Even if that price was accurate, what the market would take, it's not a price that invites people to call you up and just like beat down your door to get that property from you. Now, it depends on the area, of course, but again, when I'm in these lower value areas, not only do people not know about these areas too much, but again, it's not an area where a lot of people are looking to purchase. So trying to get a lot of money out of an area like that in that manner didn't work. It wasn't until after I sold a few lots, and I mostly sold them on terms, meaning give me a down payment, we'll figure out a monthly payment plan, and then from there we'll just go on and until you pay it off, and then I'll transfer the title to you. I started to realize like, well, if I would have just sold this for instead of 2,000, maybe 1,500, maybe 1,200, it would have sold much faster. And I would have had enough cash to actually buy more property in that area. Sure, it's not the biggest payday I would like. Sure, I feel like I'm leaving some money on the table, but then my experience tells me if I can get that 1,200 now, that's kind of a low ball estimate versus that 2,000 over a year, I will take the 1,200 now. So it's while it may sound nice that I bought a property for $100 and I sold it for 2,000, it took 2 years for me to get all $2,000 of that. If I would have take that same $100, bought it, and then sold that property for $1,200, I would have, 12x my investment, had the money quicker, and then been off to the races buying more property, maybe a bigger lot next time, maybe something else. So that's what I learned. The assessed price is often bullshit, but as we'll go into a little more, sometimes that's all you got. Now, so far, does that make sense? Let me know in the comments below if what I said so far makes any sense, because I want to make sure that we're good. Hey, what's up, Ben? Sorry, I'm looking at the comments now. First day in. Glad. I hope this content that I'm going over right now is going to be useful for you. But yeah, no, welcome. First day in. I'm loving it. All right. Next, once I stopped land investing for a while and I got back into it last year, I did a new method. Instead of looking at the assessed value and all that, I would still kind of hold on to that value. Just keep that in mind. Because I know that even though the assessor may be inaccurate, they can't be, even though I do feel some county, they kind of make it up, but whatever. Um, I'll say this. I'm like, okay, let me see. But what's more important? What the assessor wants to say the value of the land is worth, or what people are actually paying for it currently? Now the land investors who get it for pennies on a dollar because we might find people who just want to get rid of it and they couldn't sell on their own. But those who are in the market buying property in this area, like what can I realistically ask for a property in this area if I want to sell quickly? So that's when I have the method that I kind of go over in that escape velocity video, my strategy that I use, where I look at sales data, not necessarily things what have sold, because, well, you don't know why things have sold for a certain price, nor do you know if that's really accurate. So for example, a realtor, they often overvalue their property and they undermarket it. Now, how, like with the sales data, you don't know how long it was on the market. You don't know how the sale went down. And they don't always say, hey, even though I was advertising the property for, I don't know, $5,000, I only sold it for 3,000. You don't get that all the time. You just say, hey, it sold and this was the asking price. Sometimes you do get like, hey, it was sold for this amount, but you don't know what they're offering, advertising it. So I would just like, okay, well, what's on the market now? So I'll go to my favorite sites like Zillow and Realtor.com and even Craigslist and things like that and see, hey, if I had a property for sale right now, what prices are people seeing? Because let's be honest, if you are as a shopper, as a buyer, as a consumer, you're out there, you're looking for a new product, you're looking for something you haven't purchased before, and it may be a substantial purchase. Are you really just going to go into that like you buy a pack of gum or some toothpaste? Nah, son, you're going to actually do your research. You're going to shop around. You're going to compare prices. I don't know if you bought a car recently, whether you went to use in private party or you went to a dealership or whatever it is. You don't just go to the dealership and be like, all right, here's full asking price. You shop around, you compare prices. If you're looking at a couple different cars, you compare features, you compare all that shit, and then you make sure that you're getting the best car for you. And then once you're in there, you negotiate. You don't just negotiate with the dealership. If you're buying from private party, you negotiate with them. You negotiate from everybody. So I'm like, okay, well, where do we start? And if I see the prices are all listed for, let's just say $2,000 for the sake of argument, I'm like, all right, I know realistically people are actually looking at these prices, and this is they're getting understanding what they're going to have to pay for a property in this particular area. But the thing is, just because somebody advertises at a certain price does not mean that people are actually interested at that price. So you look at different analytics, like you go to Zillow, you can see how many people are viewing property, how many people saw the listing, and all that. So that can give you an idea. And in that video, I explain a bit about how to actually take that information to make an educated decision. And this way worked pretty well. So I can see what I can sell the property for, and then I'll use that and divide that by 3 or 4 to get the price I'm going to ask people on the other end. Like, hey, I can sell it for 2,000. Hey, Mr. John Smith, I want to pay $500 for your property. I want to pay $800 for your property, whatever it is. Once I get that, I have a good bearing. Now, with these two methods, no matter what I did, after I bought my first property or two, I stopped looking so much at the actual what's for sale or the assessed price or anything else. And I just started going off of what I know is true because I've purchased a lot for a certain price. So I know it's possible to do that again. Now, there is a fallacy with that thinking. There's a problem with that. Just because I found, one person who was a little bit more desperate to sell, who just wanted to be rid of the property, doesn't mean that everybody else or anybody else in the area is going to have the same feeling toward that property. Now, they still may be wanting to sell, but maybe not at the same price that I got it from that person. So I would often try to do, I guess, trial and error. That would be the best way to do it. Trial and error to figure out, okay, well, all right, well, I bought a property for 500 last time. That's going to be my offer range. I'm going to offer between 400 and 800 or so. That should be good. And if I can sell it for 2,000, then I'm always going to come out on top. And for the most part, that works. And it works actually pretty well. And as I did that, I was able to hone in on my thing. And like sometimes somebody would really twist your arm, like, hey, I'm not going to take anything less than, let's just say $1,200 for this property myself for 2,000. You're like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what it's like. And then you sell it for 2,000 or 2,200 or whatever. You make a little bit more money than you expected. You're like, okay, well, my wiggle room, I have a little bit more wiggle room than I thought. I was able to sell it pretty quickly and all that. But at the end of the day, you're buying a property, you're seeing what you purchased it for. And then as you talk to more people, you're using that experience to base your new prices off of. So it's trial and error. You try something, see if it works, see what other people think, etc. Now, in the beginning, if you don't have that first property to base that off of, it becomes difficult because then you mail or you text or whatever, and then you see, okay, it's been 3 weeks. Nobody's replied. Maybe they're not liking my offer. All right, let me up it up a little bit, a couple $100. Let me make the range a little bit bigger. Let me see. But then personally, I didn't like that method because while it is accurate and does work because you eventually stumble upon the right price, I didn't feel like I was in control. As in, like, I'm like, well, how do I know I'm not overpaying? Like, I understand what's going to take people to give me a call so they'll sell me the property and I can see what's on the market now. But how do I know things will be different with this particular property? Made me feel a little nervous. So I felt there was a better way. And so last night and yesterday, I was in their trenches digging deep, trying to figure out how do I get this better? And I realized 2 things. And now you can start to write this shit down because this is going to be important. Your offers that are successful come down to these 2 things. 1, the price that you give, obviously, is a big thing I was talking about today. But 2, the ad copy. meaning the words and the phrases you use when you communicate with these folks. Now, I use postcards. Others use mailers, and they'll send something. I get these in the mail from time to time. Something like this, an offer letter. If your offer price is terrible, it doesn't matter what you say. People aren't going to deal with you. But if your offer letter is good, or excuse me, your offer price is good, but your letter kind of sucks, or you make things difficult for the seller, they're not going to deal with you either. So this week, I'm just going to talk about the price and how to get as close as you can so you're not wasting your time trying to, do trial and error. And then next week, I'll talk about what goes into a good offer letter. But today, the price. Now, I've already told you about my first way, assess value divided by 4. I told you how it worked well. But what I didn't tell you is that that method kept me in low income areas. It kept me in low value areas. It made me, it made it hard to branch out. So while it did work, for me personally, it didn't work when I tried to scale up and do more expensive lots. I told you about the upgrade using the sales prices and all that. They worked pretty well, and I still use that to this day. But as I'm tweaking it, I'm realizing a few things. I wrote them down. First, when I tried to use this to other subdivisions, it was tough. So yeah, sure, maybe things look great in subdivision A, but I will try to do it in subdivision B, a different area, a different neighborhood, and it wouldn't fly. And it makes sense, right? Because I'm looking at prices overall in a different county or a different area, but I'm not looking at the particular pinpoint accuracy place. I'm not looking exactly where to sit, like where I'm looking to mail to. And that's a problem. Because let's think about this logically. Think about the town you live in now, town, city, whatever. There's probably a more affluent area, where the more wealthy people stay, and then there's an area where the lower income people stay. You're going to offer two different things to those people. The real estate in that affluent area is going to be a lot more expensive than the real estate in that lower income area. However, if I'm using a blanket type offer, like, well, I'm seeing people selling property for this amount, I'm just going to offer everybody this amount. If it's a similar size, it's kind of foolish. So the more I realize I need to be a lot more precise. Now, again, I'm getting deals now, so it's not like I'm not getting anything, but I'm trying to be as efficient with my time, with my advertising dollars, and my offers as possible. I don't want to leave any money on the table, as in deals on the table, and I don't want to overpay for anything. So I'm like, all right, well, how do I get more precise? Well, there are ways that you can actually, like, especially in Zillow, draw a little area. In fact, maybe I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Shit, I can't do it today. Draw a little area where you can apply. And I think I showed you this in the training that I sent you guys if you're in this group. And you can kind of see now what you didn't know, while you can find out what's currently for sale, there is a way to see what has been sold. The problem is Zillow does not always have this information available. So they have the button there and you click it, but the update, the results don't update. You don't really get the for sold things. It only happens in certain small areas. So it's not very accurate, but with different real estate platforms like PropStream or DataTree or anything like that, you can see how much things were sold for. And you can draw a little area and see, okay, give me all the different sales that happened within the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, in this little area that I drew around this map. And you can start doing that. And then from there, you can get an accurate price. You can see the lows, you can see the highs, you can see, you can't necessarily see how long it was on the market for, at least not to my knowledge, but you can see what people are actually paying for property in that particular area in real time. And, how big the lot is, and if it has different features and this and that, you can see all that. I'm like, all right, well, how can I use that information to help me make better offers? Well, Clint, one of the great mastermind, he actually shared with some information about how he does what he calls heat mapping. And I thought that was pretty cool because it is similar to what I do, but he was able to do it in a way that was more visually, I guess, understandable, where he will do certain things. It's easier to kind of see where things are happening in what areas and for how much and how that happens. There's a whole technique to it. And I think it's pretty cool, but I kind of tweaked it for my own purposes. And so I'll look for what's for sale, but I'll look in those different areas and how much and what sizes are people looking at. And if there's 2 lots for sale, they're 2 different sizes. If they're getting like an equivalent amount of people, because Some people like smaller lots in certain areas. Other people like bigger lots. Some people may want a bigger lot in this particular area. So even if the small lot is priced correctly, they don't want it because they want something bigger, or vice versa. Like, hey, I don't want something too big because I can't afford that. I want something smaller. I just want something to put my RV or trailer on. So I'm like, all right, so that's what I started doing. And then I started to run the numbers. And I'm like, all right, well, how do I get price per acre when I'm actually looking at areas that are smaller than an acre? So here's the math for that if you really want to see. First, you got to convert it from less than an acre. So let's say a quarter of an acre or a third of an acre, convert it to a full acre. So you just put 1 divided by the actual acre size. And then from there, you then you actually multiply that by its price. So that'll give you price per acre. If the size of the lot is actually bigger than an acre, then it's very simple. You just take the price, you divide it by its size, that's price per acre. Pretty simple. So if you have a $10,000 lot is 1,000, or excuse me, $10,000 lot and it's 10 acres. Well, then that tells you. Let's do the math. $10,000 over 10 acres, 1,000 acres, or excuse me, 1,000 per acre, right? I did that. Oh shit, you couldn't see it, but I did that to show you how simple the math is when the thing is bigger than an acre. Now, if I take those numbers, I take those averages and I average it all out for the area. Now I know exactly, well, I got a pretty decent idea of how much people are buying it for. Now I can take my, hey, I'm gonna divide it by 4 to get my asking price. Depending on the area, I may not offer so little. I may, put a little bit more just to sweeten the deal to get people to call. Instead of dividing by 4, maybe I only divide by 3. So I'm paying a little bit more, or I'm offering a little bit more just to get people to bite. Hell, I might just divide by 2, depending, again, if I'm really trying to get into an area and I want a really competitive price, I might do that. Now, again, I have to know what I'm going to sell for, and that's what that math kind of tells me. So it's just an estimate. You don't really know until you're out there and you're actually selling. But normally, going through something like this has not led me wrong. So far, I gave you a lot of information. Has this been useful? Has this been going crazy for you? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Because I want to make sure you guys understand this, because again, if you do this wrong, you're going to be like my poor friends who actually send out so many mailers, so many text messages, spending a ton of money on this and getting no results. Think about how that feels. You're nervous. You hear about this great opportunity in land investing. You hear how easy it is. You actually got to open your wallet a bit before you even purchase the property just to contact folks, and nobody's responding. So you do it again and no one responds. And you do it again and no one responds. And you do this for months. How do you think you're going to feel? That's why it's very important to get this down. But again, you can't be foolish. If you offered $1 million, everybody's going to take that. Like, oh yeah, $1 million sold, right? So if you overpay for it, that doesn't do you any good. That's a bad business decision. So it's very important that you start to dial this in. With that said, there's not going to be the perfect offer. You just got to make it as good as you can. That minimizes time. Now, but what I'm doing now currently is trying to hone in on the price by buying a lot, selling it so I can see what I bought it for. I can see what I sold for. That helps me understand what my limits are. That helps me understand, like, all right, if I know I can sell this for this amount because I've done it, then as long as I don't spend more than this, let's say I know if I can sell for 2,000, or let's just say 5,000, as long as I don't spend more than 2,500, I'm going to come out on top, right? If I know that, then I can play with it. Because maybe before that first sale, I was like, oh, I don't want to spend more than like 1,500. But then selling for 5,000, I'm like, all right, well, fuck it. I can go to 2,500. It's not a big deal. I'll still come out on top. That takes a while. It's a lot of nerves, right? Now, I've been in this industry for long enough that it doesn't make me worry. But if you're new to this, that might make you second guess things. And then that gets you into what I often talk about, making rash decisions because you're nervous about what's happening. So it's very important that you start to dial this in. You won't ever get perfect information. You won't ever get perfect pricing. You won't ever get perfect anything. Just make it good enough so you're not wasting your time. So you don't have to guess. So you don't have to feel nervous. So you can feel confident, like, look, man, if people aren't going to sell to me at this price, then I know there's no money to be made in this county or this area for this particular time. And that's fine. Just learn to move on. All right. Now, Think about this. To help you understand the best way to do this is going to be the last point, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm going to call this time to investment. In the game industry, we had a thing called time to triangle, meaning how fast does it take to get like a new console or some new tech and to get something drawn on the screen, right? It always takes time when you're building, you're playing with some new technology. How quickly can you do this when you're in a new area? Time to investment. So obviously the best thing to look at is your previous purchases in the area. And if it's a new area, then you won't have any purchases. So we move on. Next is look at recent purchases from others in that same little subdivision. That's going to let you know what's really going on in that area. Usually I have to go a year, 2 years, maybe 3 in sales just to see. And what am I looking at? I'm looking at how much it sold for and the size of the lot. So I can kind of go there. You know, if most subdivisions, the lots are roughly similar sizes, but if you have wildly varying sizes, then it might be good to consider, okay, like small lots, I'm gonna price this way, large lots in this subdivision, I'm gonna price this way, right? Just something to consider. If you don't have that, you can look at so first is for your own sales, second is sales from other people. Third thing to look at, this is the priority. What's actually for sale now? Not what's sold, but what's for sale. So you don't know if people are actually going to buy it at that price, but you can kind of get an idea of like, hey, is there getting a lot of traction on these ads? I mean, a lot of views, people are saving it on Zillow, things like that. You can use that to help you understand. And you start to get a little bit for the subdivision. You don't need a ton of data, just 4 or 5 different comps. You're good. You're good. All right. Now, I'm gonna say this again. Just because it's for sale doesn't mean it's gonna be sold at that price. But right now you're working with the best that you got, and the only thing you have is maybe just what's available currently. Right. If you don't have that, the next thing to look at is reaches purchases or prices in that whole town and or subdivision. It's all, excuse me, county. Subdivision is best because it's pinpoint accurate. As I said, you have rich areas, you have poor areas. You don't want to price lots from a poor area to the rich side because they're not going to take it, and you don't want to go vice versa because you're going to overpay for the less valuable lots. But sometimes you don't have any other information. You got to go off of that, right? So recent purchases, and then you can also do recent sales prices of the area, not necessarily the small area, but the large overall area. And finally, if nothing else, just go with the assessed values. If you do go with the assessed value, or no matter what you do, you got to break things up into smaller areas. Don't try not to just use the whole county or the whole town. Because I said it 3 times, I'm gonna say it the fourth. Rich areas, poor areas, you can't mix them. If you do, you're gonna get yourself, you're gonna price yourself out of the market, or again, no one's gonna buy it because you're like quote unquote insulting them. With that said, what are you gonna do with this information? I'm letting you know what I've been working on. You can see some of the math and stuff I've been doing. A lot of it's been on the computer. How are you going to use this? How is this going to help you get that first, second, or third investment? How are you going to make money with this information? This isn't just story time. This isn't just, hey, let me entertain you and do a song and dance for you. No, so I'm trying to help you make some money. So what are you going to do with this information? I'm inviting you to take this and understand it's not going to take a ton of time to start researching prices. It's not going to take a ton of time to get an average of 4 or 5 prices in a smaller area and then see what a price per acre is. It's simple math. It's not going to take a ton of time to put this together and put it in a letter, a postcard, a text message, or something, and start contacting people who have vacant land that are probably going to sell to you. What are you going to do with this information? All right, next week, I'm going to talk about the actual offer letter. I got a few here that I've gotten from other people. I'm going to critique them. I'm gonna say what I like about them, what I don't like about them. I feel because they're asking about areas, or excuse me, land that I own in a certain area, that they're either going to set them up for failure or they know something that I don't know, which is also possible. Because if I'm in different areas, I'm not going to be an expert in a certain area until I've made a few more sales and I've actually been around. So with that said, hopefully you found this valuable. Let me know in the comments below if you found this valuable, whether you're watching it live or you're watching a replay. Because I want to make sure I give you guys the good stuff. I want to really help to make sure you guys are making money, help to make sure you're making the most of your time, of your investment. I want to make this group the best that it can be for you so we can all win together. If you found it valuable, put in the comments below. Those of you guys who are watching who work with me, you're in my land investing group. I'm going to give you guys more details of what I've been doing. So that's one of the perks of working with me. As we invest together, you're gonna get all the details. You're gonna see everything I've done. You'll get the math. You'll get the, I'll probably put a spreadsheet together for everybody so you guys can just plug and chug and just, you know, not worry about it and keep moving. But that should be it. All right. If you found this valuable, let other people know about the group. Let other people know about land investing and how great it can be. But until next time, it's your boy Coach Vic signing off. I will see you guys next time. Peace